Good afternoon, Adam.
Hello, Ben. How are you?
Good yourself.
Great.
Thank you for joining us. We're just going to wait a few seconds for the participants to log in. I see that the numbers are slowly rising, so let's give 1 minute before we start our webinar today.
You know, I thought it would be awkward not seeing everybody and not knowing how many people are watching, but it is awkward.
Well, let's start. We have more than 50 participants, so we are already there. So, well, first of all, I wanted to thank EFMD for co-sponsoring this event with Academy by RIMA1. My name is Benjamin Stevelin. I'm the CEO of RIMA1. I wanted to thank Adam for taking time today to talk to us about how to engage your faculty. So, Adam, if you could say maybe a few words about yourself and your institution, and then I'll start shooting questions.
Yeah, so my name is Adam Thomas, and I have been at the Zurich University of Applied Sciences for almost 10 years now, and in my role as accreditation manager, I've been doing that for nearly 4 years, mainly regarding AACSB, but more and more other topics with rankings and accreditations, and of course the events that I've visited cover those topics in some detail. Yeah, I mean, I always stress that I'm certainly not the expert, and it's just my opinion and my experience. I don't have a PhD in quality assurance, but I love having these discussions. So I'm incredibly honored that so many people joined today, and Ben invited me, and Academ and EFMD agreed to collaborate on this.
Well, thank you so much, Adam. So just maybe for the people that were not in on our Monday webinar, engage possible. So please feel free to use the chat, ask questions. I'll try to push the question to Adam during the discussion. So as Adam pointed out, is just one expert in one school giving his vision and his opinion and showing practice that they have done. So this they want. So Adam, the first question I think is why? Well, we had a lot of questions already Monday about faculty engagement, so it was really interesting. But why is, in your opinion, the faculty key in an accreditation process?
I mean, the faculty from our experience and from a lot of experiences that I've heard about from other schools, I mean, if the faculty aren't going to be involved, then I wouldn't suggest going down the accreditation road. And that's one of the challenges I think most schools face, is ramping up to an initial accreditation or starting the accreditation process, is getting the faculty involved, getting them informed, reducing some of the tensions that they may have, some of the apprehensions that they may have. Because I think, as we all know, faculty, you know, they're very busy individuals, and when they're challenged with new things, they question those new things, and I think that's appropriate. And but it of course requires that we're on top of what we're trying to do, and we're able to answer most of the questions that the faculty have.
Thank you. So what are the mechanisms that make you communicate well with your faculty?
I think a strong foundation for me is really that we know our faculty, and that our faculty know who we are. And I'm talking about the individuals in the quality management team who are involved in accreditation and all the processes surrounding the accreditations that we have. So, I mean, for me, that foundation is vital, because if we send a faculty member an email, or we facilitate an email or communication being sent, the faculty member needs to know that's somewhat relevant and somewhat important. And if they have no idea who is sending the email and why, then I think we can all agree they're probably going to ignore it and focus on the many other things that are on their table to complete.
It's for sure that coming to your comment is something that we hear quite often, is that quality teams say, look, I'm bombarding my faculty with emails, and I know the first thing they do when they see my email is just, you know, press the delete button, not reading the email, and like that I don't have to pay attention. This is something that a lot of schools mention, and it seemed to be the case for you as well, how to engage them, to understand what you're going to ask them, and like that they don't delete your email.
Yeah, I mean, at our school, at the business school at the Zurich University of Applied Sciences, we have a few avenues to communicate with faculty. I think it's nothing atypical. We have email, of course. I find that somewhat quite successful. We have blogs and update articles that are facilitated through email, but also on the internal and external websites. And that's something that the last 2 years has I can think of the word in German, but not in English, has kept me busy, is thinking, how do we effectively reach faculty, with the key being that we don't, I'm very customer oriented, and I really don't want to waste faculty time either, because I do know they're busy. So finding ways to reach faculty is very important for me, and not wasting their time.
Thank you. But how do you explain what the accreditation process is to faculty? And I know for that answer, you're going to show us something special. And honestly, for me, it's one of the only that I've ever seen that has done such a video, because it will be a video. And this is really cool. So how do you explain the accreditation process?
I mean, we have a few different avenues. We have a centralized dean's office, which manages the accreditations through the quality management team. But as well, we have stakeholders decentralized in each business unit at the school. So they're heavily engaged in educating the faculty about accreditations at the school. We also do biannual workshops with new faculty or faculty that have come into a faculty role at the school. And so those are some of the key ways we do that. I was talking about emails and blog articles and things like this before, and the solution that we came up with, I'll share right now. This seemed to reach a lot of faculty and make a good impression. I'll just share maybe the first 10 seconds. Oh, you're here already. Let me stop the coffee here. So, my name is Adam, and I'm your quizmaster today. Let me just take a sip of coffee. Coffee's not very good, but cup's amazing. So today, what are we doing? We have an AACSB quiz for you today, and if you answer all the questions successfully, you can win this certificate. Now, this tells the world that you're an AACSB expert. So I'll stop there, since it's very focused on AACSB, obviously, another great accreditation besides EFMD and EQUIS. But this, so the video was one part, and it was very successful. The clicks were very high. Now we didn't just stop there. We integrated the video with coffee for all students as well as all faculty and staff. So we hired one of the best coffee roasters in Zurich to come for the entire day. And we checked with the secretary's office to check when the most students would be around. So we did our research, and yeah, so it was very successful. And I went there probably about half the day, interacted with students, talked to them about accreditation and what it means to them and why it's important. Some students didn't know. Many students did know about the accreditation, and we were able to have brief discussions throughout the day. And then the 2 other days, I went around with a coffee cart and was a barista for 2 days for the faculty and staff. And I really tried to go to their locations. So there would be fewer barriers between them getting a good coffee, being able to see me once again, and ask and answer any questions. And I think that was also really really interesting to have that direct contact with them once again. That's not the only opportunity we take to interact with our faculty, but that was a successful one.
So from the comments I get on the chat, I think you might want to consider an acting career, because everybody is really impressed by your video.
I know.
Would you be able to share that video to some of the participants for them to see the full extent of the video?
Yeah, so the video goes on, and it's a quiz video. So there's options in the, let's see, where's my screen? There's options in the different part of the screen at the end. If you view another 15 seconds, they come up, and that takes you, it's like a choose your own adventure quiz video. The idea is not originally ours. There's another one on YouTube as well. But the best way to access that is just to search YouTube on an iPhone. It works especially well in the YouTube app. To search YouTube AACSB at SML, and both videos. That was only one video, and there's a second part to that video as well. They're quite funny, and
yeah, and if you're okay with it, we will share it on the.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to pick the wrong answer. That's usually better than the correct answer.
But if it's okay, also we will put the address of the videos on the LinkedIn subgroup that EFMD has created for the QAA, like that people can access it if they didn't remember the way you just gave them to go there.
I can post that today.
So if I see as well, I'm going to pick some of the question from the audience. The question that are not related to your acting skills.
Yes.
So Florence has a question. Adam, to what extent it is important for accreditation activities embedded in other faculty activities? With in mind, which aspect of accreditation need the kind of communication?
Yes. I mean, I didn't hear all the question, but what I did hear, I can answer. Well, basically, how does accreditation impact everything else that's going on at the school? I mean, I realize schools are at different places in the accreditation process, and I would consider us far along, but we're not perfect. And what we do is we look at any process that is related to accreditation, or the quality assurance procedures that are not related to accreditation, and we make sure that we're involved in an efficient way, that the process can move forward, but at the same time, we can make sure that we're not running into any problems with the accreditations or the quality assurance procedures that we have at the school. I know there's a participant from another school here, and Amir, if you want to share sometime, he was mentioning things from Bradford University. He mentioned a 2-page summary that his school has, and I think that sounds like a great idea. A 2-page summary of the quality assurance processes, rankings, and accreditations for people to have at meetings that they can pull out and remind themselves in a very efficient way, you know, what they can't forget when they're developing some of these processes.
Thank you. So sorry, I had to log as well in my computer because my other computer had some sound issue. So I'm just trying to figure that out live as we speak. Sorry. So here it should be better now. Do you hear me better, Adam?
I hear you fine. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I had some issues before. So, yeah. Okay. So,
to summarize, I mean, potentially accreditation and quality assurance processes could, and I would argue should, impact or engage many of the developments at the school. I realize, however, that that's for us as well. It's not possible in every single development at the school that we're heavily involved. And it's not entirely necessary, but it's certainly something that that we think about, no matter what's developing at the school.
If you think about to go more into Florent's question, when you look at accreditation, there is some standards of the accreditation bodies for AACSB, EFMD, or other that are really aimed at the faculty themselves, at their activities, at their research, at all of that. So how do you give them the global vision, the global picture? This is what the accreditation process, this is what we are going to do. It would be linked to what Julie was mentioning about the strategy and how you communicate this school strategy toward the faculty. And then how do you make them realize that what they're doing is really important for this process?
I mean, that's it's an excellent question. I mean, I think there's two situations that stand out from discussions with even some of the participants here today. There's a big difference between starting an initial accreditation and continuing on with accreditations. There's definitely a uphill battle to a certain extent with some faculty in approaching an initial accreditation. It's a huge change and causes some anxiety for certain faculty. And how you do that is, I mean, it's typical communication where if you don't communicate what you're planning to do and what you're thinking about, then faculty will make assumptions that often aren't necessarily correct. We had, I know, approaching the initial accreditation, the common comment by our faculty were, we're trying to be Harvard, which is not something we can try to do at this moment. So it was a statement that was completely wrong, which told me that we were somehow failing in communicating what the purpose of the accreditation was. And we took the opportunity in our development after successful initial accreditation to clarify some of those things. And that really involved school-wide meetings, workshops. We have annual quality mornings at the school, and we use those to mention and discuss accreditation and sort of debunk some of the myths. Oh, sorry about that. Debunk some of the myths out there. And another opportunity we've realized in the last 2 years, as people got to know me better, was that there were a lot of meetings, and that's something I would encourage everyone to think about, and many of you probably have already. But there's a lot of meetings happening outside of our awareness, potentially. And what we started to do is we started to really become aware of those meetings and to make sure that we could be present and to put the word out there that we're more than willing to join meetings that are already happening anyways, to answer questions and deal with any concerns that the faculty have. And I think that that's had a huge benefit at our institution, that we took the time and energy to have a personal connection with the faculty and staff.
There's a question from Melvin, and I think it's completely linked to what you just asked, is I sense that faculty needs to feel that accreditation can contribute to their work. Considering that many prioritize publishing over teaching and other administrative work, how can we convince them that we can add value to their work with accreditation?
I mean, I think it's a very good question. I think the relationships that our faculty at our school have because of the accreditation, mainly related to the partnerships that we have at great institutions that are even participating in this meeting today. Thank you. And there's, what I find is that the faculty come back from conferences, and accreditation is not a topic that's never mentioned at even academic conferences. And besides that, it's the main way I see it's impacted our faculty is that because of our partnerships, the faculty can approach schools and the schools know who we are a little bit better. ZHAW is not a school that you know, it's not one of the Harvards that everybody knows about, or Nova, or Stanford. We're just not, and that's okay. But accreditation has allowed our faculty to be more recognized internationally. And the good thing is that our faculty are already doing a lot of great work. So that of course helps open the door even more.
And when you were talking about initial accreditation and the difference between the initial accreditation and the maintenance of accreditation, and in your view, because you did both, how is the message passed to the faculty about the accreditation process? And at first, was it coming from top management? Has it changed with from the initial to the continuous improvement report? Like, how have you managed that to talk to them about the modification in the standards, about like new things? How have you, like, is it really top managed, like bottom up or top down?
I mean, we always try to start with a top-down message. I think in any sort of expert organization, a top-down message is very important. I'm just Adam Thomas and the quality management team. Nobody gets in trouble if they totally ignore me. So it's really helpful to get top management involved. And like I said before, we, for example, when AACSB updated their standards, or as we approach new ventures and new ambitions, we have a lot of time and energy that we put in with school-wide meetings where we go through, and it's intimidating to think there's 100, 200 faculty sitting in a room and you're presenting huge changes. It's a bit intimidating, but what's fortunate is that most of those changes are in line with exactly what they're doing already. They just may not necessarily make the links between how they're in line with what they're doing already and not. And as well, we give our faculty opportunities to express where they're concerned, and we listen, and we try and make changes wherever possible. So, for example, we had a meeting in June 2016 when I first started. And since that meeting, the material that was presented at that meeting, the proposed material, has changed quite significantly based on faculty input. And I think they see that and they appreciate it for the ones that we're hoping to see an impact.
So there's two questions related to what you're saying from Amizan, and I will try to pass them. Is the quality, the annual quality morning. So it's something that you do once a year for one morning?
We try to do it up to 2 times a year. It depends on how many changes or how much information takes place at the school. And I guess just to set the context, we have about 550 employees at the school, including staff and faculty, and we have over 8,600 students at the business school. And so we have a lot of people we need to stay in touch with. So years where there's more information to discuss, present, these meetings are interactive. They're about 4 hours long, with as many of the participants that can come, usually about 100. And so they have an opportunity to learn about the changes, and they have an opportunity to discuss and also give feedback on where they see us going. If they feel we're going in the wrong direction in specific areas, we listen and we reflect, and usually we accept that there's room for improvement. So yeah.
And the second question from Amizan was to talk about the fact that, and you have this problem because, as you say, you're AACSB accredited. If I remember properly, you're FIBA accredited. You are in the process with EFMD. So how do you pass the message of not only one accreditation, but multiple accreditation that maybe not looking at the same thing? So how do you put everything in the same basket and engage them continuously?
I mean, I guess I'm not necessarily the best person to ask, because I've talked to people like Sarah Vaughn and Julie from Grenoble, who have up to 19 or 20 accreditations, sometimes many in the same year. So I don't have that experience, so I'm probably not the best person to ask. But what we do is that we map like a 5 to 7 year prognosis for when we expect to have peer visits when we expect, I mean, it's just a simple Excel table so that we can anticipate when there might be bottlenecks. If there's any opportunities to schedule things a little bit differently, we'll do that. And if not, we make sure that we get the resources to make sure we have enough people to deal with the situation that we're facing.
But also, if you look at the standard themselves, if you look at EQUIS and AACSB, and let's take one example of the faculty life, which is research. The two do not look exactly the same way. Like you have in one standard 2.1, in EQUIS you have table 2 for the reports on accreditation on research. How do you pass them this information? Like, are you going to try to say, look, it doesn't change anything to your life. This is how it's done. So we have the information like that. So it's sufficient for us. Do you go into details, or do you stay, at the top level, not giving them too much information in order not to lose them?
I mean, like I said before, we try to, it's not the best word, but I try to bug faculty as little as possible. So in that way, if a faculty member is, doing the research that based on our strategy, we're hoping they're completing and in the areas that we hope have impact, then it's not necessary that they're an AACSB or an EFMD expert or a FIBA expert. What we do is we basically just make sure that we're not running into any issues with our strategy and with our mission and with our actual engagement and activity of the faculty. And then the faculty that are involved in the peer visits, we brief them. And I want to stress, we don't coach them. We don't put words into their mouths. We don't give them any material that we say, this is what you need to say. That's absolutely something we're very careful about. Basically what we just brief them on why the peer team's there, what they're expecting to hear about, and then we go through some of the answers to questions that they may have, and we tell them to be honest, and not all of the faculty have a completely positive answer. Surprisingly, some of them think they have a negative answer, but without realizing it, it's a very positive answer, and it would be excellent for a peer school to hear that answer. So, so we focus on making sure the faculty that need to know about the accreditation in extreme detail, they know about it. The faculty that don't and that are doing what we hope that they do as a faculty member and as a teacher and as an administrator, we try and let them be, with a few sparks here and there to remind them that we are accredited and yeah, but not much more.
If I'm not sharing too much confidential information, because I know your school, so I'm going to shoot the question anyway. And if you don't want to respond, you don't have to. But do you need sometime a member of the faculty to be your voice among their peers? Like, do you feel that sometime there is some discussion you need to have with them, but it would come better if it's a faculty member himself or herself that pass on this information to faculty? Are you sometime in this state of mind and need to push that information?
I'm always in that state of mind. I'm not a dean. I'm not an associate dean. I'm basically a project manager at the school. I have almost no power. So I'm constantly thinking, I mean, when I wake up at 2, 3 in the morning, I like my job a lot, and I like waking up at 2, 3 in the morning and having really cool ideas, and I write them down, and I'm very excited. It doesn't cause me stress. But absolutely, I mean, there's an idea I've mentioned at a few events, this idea of third space, and it's quality managers find themselves in this third space. I know it's changing the topic a little bit, but it's exactly where I am. I know there's a few deans in the seminar right now, or the webinar. But third space is basically the people that are stuck between academia and practice or professional activities, where you have to constantly go back and forth and communicate with both. You're sort of a bridge between those two groups. And absolutely, I know who the faculty are at our school that I can bounce ideas off of. I bounce ideas off of them. and I'm not doing that every week, but definitely every couple weeks, I'm seeing what they think could work, what might not work. And now the challenge is doing that in a way that it's not bouncing up to the executive committee and all of a sudden there's panic at the organization. Adam wants to change something, or and that's something I've certainly made mistakes with in the past. But for the most part, I consider them sort of opinion leaders. They know the school really well as well. So I can mention an idea to them and they'll have some advice or some input or a solution, a better solution that will help me, and it'll help them move things forward.
Thank you. So, I'm going to ask my question, which is linked to a question that we got from the audience, and I will say hi to the person that just asked a question, because Simon is in Australia, so he's a few hours ahead of us, so he's in the middle of the night for them. So thank you for the Australian and New Zealanders that are listening. So the question is linked to data gathering, and I know you have a few slides that you have created on this data gathering part. So I let the floor on this data gathering part now. Yes,
unfortunately I don't have that open at the moment, but let me see if I can pull it open. So we use Ben's software, or the software that Rima Wan and his team developed. And so that's one of our sources for gathering, I would call it faculty engagement, and that's both faculty engagement with practice and faculty engagement with academia, with research, etc. And one difference that I noticed that we have to a lot of other schools I've talked to is we collect a lot of data. We collect maybe I'm wrong, and please let me know in the comments if I am, but we collect we try to collect, and that's one of the challenges we're facing right now, but we collect all the data, even down to if somebody gave a paper presentation, or even if somebody went to a conference. We want to know about it. We want to know where that conference was, if they presented, how many people, what was the topic, how's that topic related to our strategy, etc. Of course it is, because otherwise they wouldn't go to the conference. So we collect a lot of data. What we're looking at now, and I'm struggling to get this up here. What we're struggling with now is, I think a lot of other schools have noticed this probably as well, is that it's not a problem of the tool, it's a problem that the faculty are busy and they tell us what we need from them. And what we're realizing moving into the future is that we need to know more. And what we realize as well is that we don't know about every conference. We don't know about every case study that they wrote. We have faculty that write 10 articles a year, and we know about.
If I may ask you, how do you explain them why you need this granularity of data? Because you know, you're in Switzerland, so people are used to giving a lot of data, but like, how do you trigger the explanation on look, I need that, this is the reason why, this is the impact that it's going to have? Do you go in this level of details, or they just are okay with giving you the data?
Yeah, so that's actually something where it's an opportunity that's come up. Challenge. It's an opportunity that's come up. It's a challenge we've been aware of, and it's an opportunity that we're trying to take advantage of at the moment with the coronavirus. For example, our process of informing the faculty of which things we have on file and which things we're looking for. I'm hoping to show you shortly.
Do you want me to show it, Adam?
No, let me try one. Okay, I have it. Sorry. I had to switch computers just before starting, and then.
Well, lucky for you, it was not during the meeting like me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I need to leave full screen. Sorry about this. I'm going as fast as I can. So what I'm going to show you is that, let's see, here we go. So our faculty get.
No. Hold on, Adam. We're not yet on your screen. Yeah, we are.
Here it comes. Good. So I'll make this larger. Great. So it's not a beautiful form. I'm the first to admit that, but I think it looks okay. So our faculty get a maintenance form every year. We tie the maintenance form talks about their activities that they've done. If they've produced a journal article, it shows how many points they have. We have a point system for our accreditation. And then on the next sheet, it shows a list of the contributions that we have a record of. And it's not just journal articles, but it's also consulting, professional practice activities as well. That's automatically generated from our system, from Academ. And then it gives them a prognosis of their status. So this is specifically related to AACSB, but it answers the question because this is a key communication tool to start the discussion with the faculty. Here's the official documentation we have on record for the last 5 years. They have to discuss this with their manager at their annual assessment. And then they give us feedback about what's missing. And the problem that we're facing now is that the faculty give us enough to get their AACSB status. Many give us a lot more. We have several faculty that have over 1,000 points here, which means about 20 articles, 30 articles in the last 5 years in pretty good journals. Usually the ones that have that many points have good journal articles. And what we're struggling with now is that we notice that they're just giving us enough in some cases. And with the coronavirus, our annual assessment's been delayed by about 6 months. So we're putting into what I'm working on right now, the last 2 weeks, is putting together a process where we inform the faculty of what we have. We inform them why it's important for EFMD and for AACSB as well, to have all contributions, not just end activities, but all activities and contributions, so that we have a complete and as comprehensive as possible picture of the engagement of the school, because we summarize that for the accreditation bodies. And I will say, I don't think it's, right now our status is not bad, but we noticed that it could be better and we want to have a complete picture.
It's interesting because there is another Swiss school that I know well who has something which is not the same, but has the same principle. And so it's a faculty maintenance form. And what they do is they start by giving the faculty a vision of where they are in terms of AACSB status, SAP, IPSP. It's only an AACSB school. And what they do is they explain each of the faculty why they are at this qualification. And if they are not at the qualification, which, well, maybe they're PA, not SA, they give them the reason why and how they could pass to the above status. So this is actually really interesting. And there is a way of using these rules to in the maintenance form, which are really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just expect that faculty can inherently figure it out, and most of them can. And for the 5 or 10 who need support, they write us, and we usually meet with them and walk through what they're planning on doing, what development they're thinking about, and making sure that they're going to be in the safe zone moving forward. So yeah.
So a question from Jennifer is, how do you validate the data? They already have issue in the faculty entering the information, but then they also have an issue on confirming and validating all of the information that are provided. So how do you do this validation process?
We were planning on having the faculty put the information in themselves, which of course is very attractive if the resources are low and you have some good technology at the school. However, we ran into the problem that our system of Academ is connected to our library as well, and the library requires a lot of details that aren't necessary for accreditations, as well as they expect it in a very, very precise format. So how we deal with that is each business unit at the business school, they have a decentralized administrator, and the faculty write that administrator, every time they have something new to add, or the 2 or 3 times a year that they do that, and the administrator has been trained by us to add things in the right way. There's still problems, but it for us, the other option of I mean, we have well over 1,000 faculty in our system, and if they were adding things themselves, I can guarantee we would have a huge problem, because the format would not be correct in probably 50% of the cases.
But it's interesting, because I was talking to some Australian school recently, and they had the problem of receiving data from the different business unit, and the quality of the data was not there. And so the accreditation team actually did all of the cleansing themselves. And when the business needed reports, they were asking the accreditation team, because they knew accreditation, because you need to submit reports that are clean. Yeah. You do the job of cleansing the data. And so it's always an interesting cycle around the data, and how to make sure that you have data. But like, so you never thought about asking your faculty to directly feed the data?
We did, we did, and but not that changed because of the technicalities. I mean, we have like 45 bits of information that we need for each journal article and book and chapter, and the format in which we need that data is very complex, and it's very difficult for a faculty member who goes into the system once every few months to remember the format that we taught them, and I don't think it would be an efficient use of their time. So because administrators are cheaper than faculty member time, and they can lead to higher quality in the system, that's the road we chose to go down. So
do you want to show something else in this PowerPoint, Adam, or?
I mean, I guess, I mean, I guess trying to think I mean, this is my crazy slide, I guess. And basically the idea, the dream I have, and I mentioned this on the QAA LinkedIn group, and I highly encourage all of you to join the QAA LinkedIn group. It's a closed group, so you have to be accepted. But of course, it should lead to some good discussion. But I thought I'd share just quickly one of my dreams. The school does have a data warehouse, which has a lot of information. Academ for our school has a lot of information, and we're basically looking at ways to, and we've seen a lot of great schools show examples of how they're using Power BI to take data from Academ, from the various tools that their school has, processing it in very specific ways, and produce reports that are useful to faculty and staff. And I think that's where the next step takes us, to really show that the faculty and staff, knowing some of the data, knowing some of our research productivity and where our strengths are and where our weaknesses are, can help them make better decisions. So that's sort of where we're headed in the next few years. But other than that, I can stop sharing my screen.
Well, thank you. That was really interesting, Adam. So you talked earlier about not coaching your faculty for the visit, but could you give us, like, you already gave us some best practice that you did for a lot of different things. How do you involve them in preparing for that visit?
The faculty?
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say that's been one of the most amazing things of my job the last 4 years, is meeting with the faculty before the visit and having the discussions about their engagement, both in academics and practice, the business links that they've developed, the companies they've worked with, the companies they've helped start up. And yeah, I mean, our faculty, fortunately, are heavily engaged, and I would assume a lot of your faculty are as well. And in the meetings that I had approaching the accreditation visit, which was unfortunately canceled just before everything shut down, so we'll do it again in a couple months, which it'll actually be fun. I think this time around a little less stress. But meeting with the faculty, I mean, they want to know what the accreditation bodies want to hear about, and they want to know how they can help tell the story of what we're doing. And I can't think of anything better than that, hearing about the great things that our school does, what the faculty are passionate about, and that they're really interested in sharing and presenting that in a way that that promotes it in an appropriate way.
And Cesar is just asking a question. You mentioned faculty. How do you involve the administrative staff? We will have a session with Kirsten in a few weeks about that, but maybe a few best practice on your part on that.
I mean, we pretty much anyone at our school that's interested in any of the accreditations or quality assurance procedures that we're engaged in, they have the opportunity to attend seminars from those organizations. And I will say EFMD has a lot of great events happening at the moment, and the prices are either free or very reasonable online, just to market that a little bit. But yeah, so sort of lost my train of thought.
So you push the people to actually engage with the different seminars offered by the accreditation agency, to understand what is the accreditation, how it works, and like that they have a better understanding themselves of this process.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned as well before that all new employees have 1 or 2 sessions each year to learn about the accreditation specifically. And we integrate it into workshops throughout the year. More and more departments are asking me to come to their monthly meetings to present on a specific topic, why research is important, what the accreditation body wants to know about, how are we summarizing the data, so that it's more and more that the faculty are on board, and I would say almost 100% are on board now that we're accredited and they see the advantages and benefits. They want to stay accredited, and they're very motivated to stay accredited.
And so you always mention about the faculty data part, which is, let's say, on research and their CV. But one of the also key part for an accreditation process being the AOL or ILOs. How do you involve them on that aspect? Because that might be also more difficult, because you're talking to them about quality, about their pedagogy, their teaching. So do you also have something specific on that?
I mean, since the process of really going after the top accreditations like AACSB and EFMD accreditations started about a little over 10 years ago. It's been a struggle, and I think I haven't met a school that can't say that they've struggled a little bit with AOL or the equivalent for EFMD. But I think it's important that the faculty understand that it's not a final implementation, it's a process and it's ongoing. And I think they're seeing that more and more, that the focus of AOL, for example, is to, there's sustainable improvement, and they're a part of the discussion. And the more they're a part of the discussion, the better. And their views are valued, and how their views are valued are through the various committees. With AOL, we've integrated the AOL process into the relevant committees across the school. And that's what we've done with everything related to quality assurance at our school. All the processes that impact any stakeholder group, those stakeholder groups have committees, and all of our proposals, all of our developments and changes, they go through those committees. So faculty are represented in various ways, and those representations are informed about changes and developments. And before the executive committee even hears proposals, they want to see them go through all those committees that are relevant. Otherwise, they just say, sorry, go back.
You mentioned Amir earlier, so Amir has a question, so I'm going to ask Amir's question to you. What's the best way to engage with faculty in innovative way under COVID-19?
I mean, that's what I talked about before. We're trying to take advantage of the opportunity to look at the completeness of our data related to practice and academic endeavors of our faculty. And our quality management team anyways is I would consider a little bit innovative. And I mean, we look at efficient use of time, and I think time at the moment is the challenge because faculty are very busy transitioning to online learning, less so now than they were 3 weeks ago. But now they're thinking about online exams and how to facilitate those. And so my feeling is faculty are very busy. So again, coming back to, I want to bug them as little as possible, but as much as necessary. So looking for solutions, I mean, sending faculty an email saying, please email me all these details back. I don't think that's an efficient use of their time or an efficient use of our time, but creating a survey. I mean, all of us, I think, I can't think of any school that doesn't have access to survey or data collection, basic data collection software where you can collect the information that you need in a way that the faculty, it's clear to the faculty, it's clear to the management, and then at the end, the best part is you typically have it collated in one CSV or Excel file that you can actually determine how complete or how incomplete the task is. So honestly, we're trying to bug the faculty as little as possible at the moment. And the ways in which we are engaging with them, we're trying to make sure they're as efficient as possible.
But did you find also, because you mentioned quite a few times that you have data and you're asking a lot of data at a low granularity on those data. Have you seen, because we are in a changing time, you know, you're looking for new competencies, new skills from your faculty at the moment because they have to move to online teaching. Since you had a quality process, you had data, was that helpful when you had to move online to maybe define quality that some of your faculty had and being able to use? So like, did that also get you more engaged with some of the faculty because you already had those data?
I mean, it's really helpful to approach a faculty member and make sure they're aware of all the information that you already have, But I'm trying to think I mean, the faculty are, I guess my main answer is we haven't really, it's only been about 3 or 4 weeks in Switzerland that things have really been online and shut down more or less. So we haven't had to cross that bridge yet. And because we just did a huge push for our canceled visit in March, we've sort of stepped back and allowed the organization to take a breath and focus on what it needs to focus on. Now, moving forward, we're focusing on making sure to use the systems that we have at our disposal to make sure that the faculty can accomplish what we need them to accomplish in ways that are efficient for them. So I guess that's...
So, one question, maybe you're not the best person because as you described, your faculty have been quite engaged. But we have a question from Khadija. Before getting them engaged, how can we manage faculty resistance?
Yeah.
So maybe you're one of the lucky one that has a huge engagement, but it seemed from the question that there is a lot of resistance. There is a lot of blockage of the faculty. So have you heard like comments like that and maybe best practice from people around you on those kind of things?
I mean, dealing with resistance, that's an excellent question. We, like I said before, or near the beginning, during an initial accreditation, we noticed the resistance. And since we've put in procedures, for example, our hiring processes have fully integrated. Sorry, my kids are screaming. So we've adjusted the hiring processes for our business school to make sure we're not hiring faculty that are going to inherently cause problems for them and for us, or making sure we're hiring faculty that we can develop. But to get back to the question, resistance, I mean, there's definitely approaching initial accreditation. There's going to be resistance, especially at practitioner schools like ours, teaching schools, where the focus is really the teachers are there because they're practitioners and they're teachers. So we definitely had that experience as well, where we had resistance. I wasn't directly involved in that resistance, until after the initial accreditation was successful. There were still some people around that were resistant.
What were they resistant to?
I mean, it's a difficult question to answer.
Was it to the accreditation
think,
process itself? Was it to the asking them too many questions, too much data? Like, what was the?
I mean, I think my impression, and one of our committees is a faculty board, and I've been going to the faculty board meetings since I started over just about 10 years ago, and I don't think it's I think the resistance is often caused by misunderstanding or miscommunication of what is going on, and I think that board, for example, because I interacted with that board, it when I stepped into the accreditation manager role, I knew exactly I would find people who had misunderstood certain things in that board and those meetings, and I'd have an opportunity to discuss and clarify things with them. So I think we didn't have any faculty who, I mean, fortunately in the Swiss system, we don't have this idea where a faculty member is tenured and they can do whatever they want, whether you tell them they have to do something or not. They can just ignore you. We don't have that system here. So we do have to be, I mean, one thing that helps is being customer oriented. I fully view myself as a service provider. We have to make sure we accomplish what the school needs to accomplish and make sure the faculty are still happy about teaching and doing research and want to still work at the institution. So those are a few things that I consider.
And in case of resistance, because one of the things that Julie mentioned was like, being on the executive committee of the school is something quite helpful when you're thinking of accreditation. And are you on the executive committee?
Oh. I'm not. I don't expect to be anytime soon.
How do you push information? Like, how do you channel this information to people that could pressure?
Yeah, I mean that's a question I can answer. We track the faculty development of all of our faculty every year with a 5-year prognosis, and I realize that's insane for a lot of schools. Not many schools have this. I think the other Swiss school you mentioned probably has it as well. But we're very fortunate to have a process where we know in 3 years that we have about 44 faculty members that either we need to know about the research that they've completed and haven't told us, or we need to make sure that the resources are in place that they can accomplish the research that they need to accomplish as a faculty member at our school.
Okay, thank you.
So,
we are just about 3 minutes to the end, but I have one question from Florence.
with the value.
No, you have indicated that the activities are included in committees. Is it possible to collect some of the data from the committee's activities?
Yeah, I mean, for example, our AOL data is based on a ongoing record tracking document, which tracks, it's all cyclical and closing the loop and etc. So it's important that you're tracking that in a way that's not requiring you to look at 500 different Excel sheets before the accreditation visit. So yeah.
But I agree that the value question is really good as well. So since you've seen that question on the value, let me read it out loud. My comment on resistance: staff would normally be resistant when they don't understand the value of accreditation. So answering why the accreditation will add value to their activities.
Yeah,
I think that might be the conclusion question, Adam. But it's a tough one.
I mean, for us, like I said before as well, I hate to say that again, but ZHAW or ZHAW or ZHAW, like Ben calls it, in some other schools, we're not an incredibly well-known school outside of Switzerland. We're the largest business school in Switzerland, but very few schools know us outside of Switzerland and our partners as well. So for us, when our faculty are traveling and engaging in academia abroad, specifically academics, schools are slowly realizing that we're doing some interesting things, not just because of our accreditation, but because, fortunately, because of the accreditation, some doors have been opened, and some of our partners have been able to see the huge engagement that we actually have. And it's a great situation to be in, that we have the accreditation and our faculty are highly engaged and highly active. It would be much more difficult, and maybe that's what some of the questions are getting at, is how do you become accredited and get your faculty actually producing what they should be producing? That's a hard question, and that's not something I can necessarily answer. But if you want to private message me, that's something I could share some ideas with.
Perfect. Well, it's 2 p.m. So it's the end of our discussion today. Adam, thank you so much for your time.
Yes.
It was a really good discussion. We're looking forward to our next discussion next Monday on AOL with Bjorn. Thank you everybody for attending, and
Yes.
speak to you soon.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Please join this LinkedIn group, the QAA LinkedIn group, so we can continue the discussion outside of the webinar. That would be excellent. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Adam. Bye-bye, everybody.